morning, MegaPodlings. It's Krazy Joe, and I was asked by a viewer, Sean Lolland, asked me if I would do a review of the new reboot of Punky Brewster. It is airing on the Peacock streaming channel. There's 10 episodes. I have watched them all, and Sean said, hey, would you review Punky Brewster? Now, it's interesting because I had considered reviewing Punky Brewster, and then I kind of thought, well, I don't know if there's the interest level in Punky Brewster. You see, Punky Brewster's kind of a weird show. I am the same age as actress Soleil Moon Frye, who played Punky Brewster, and it's a show I grew up with. When I was a kid, like I said, I was the exact same age as her. So it was a show about a kid my own age, hanging out with kids my own age, and it was a pretty hot show at the time for our age range. Like, you know, I'm 45 now, and you know, kids my age, it was one of those shows where if he aired at Sunday nights on NBC, and if you were out on a Sunday night, it was like, yo, Mom, we gotta get home, Punky's coming on. It was one of those shows. But it's a strange show in that it's had a bizarre cultural footprint. It's very much a part of the pop culture. You'll see people at Halloween, like at 80s parties and things, dressed like Punky Brewster. But the reruns never got a lot of play. Like, of all the 80s sitcoms, you'd see reruns of Family Ties. You'd see reruns of the Hogan Family. Nobody was really rerunning Punky Brewster. It never had its day on Nick at Night or TV Land. It's one of those shows that was very popular for a moment in time, and we never forgot about it, but it didn't leave that kind of cultural imprint where the reruns aired constantly. It kind of like disappeared from television. At least it seemed to. Now, syndicated reruns are oftentimes very localized. So I'm talking about my perspective from living in the Philadelphia area. We did not get a lot of reruns of Punky Brewster in this area. Maybe your local station was showing Punky Brewster 12 times a day. I don't know. But it just seemed like this odd show where it was really popular for its moment, and then it disappeared, and you didn't see it, and you didn't hear from it. But no one really forgot it. It just wasn't getting a lot of rerun airplay like a lot of 80s shows of that decade. That's my perception, at least. So it's like I said, it's left a strange cultural footprint because we remember it. We know what it is. But how often over the last 20, 30 years have we been sitting back watching Punky Brewster? Probably not much. You probably have been sitting watching your Family Ties or your Night Court or your Cheers or Growing Pains or any number of 80s sitcoms, Facts of Life. Probably not Punky Brewster. Why is that? I don't know. But it was never a show that was forgotten, and Soleil Moon Frye was very, very identified in that role. To like, you know, she'd pop up on shows like The Wonder Years and things throughout the 80s. When she popped up, you'd go, hey, it's Punky Brewster. Because she was very, very kind of typecast as Punky Brewster. And here we are. It's been over 30 years. Punky Brewster's back. Punky Brewster's back on the Peacock Network. Again, played by Soleil Moon Frye. She is an adult. She is a single mother raising her kids. And I don't know. It's a bizarre show. It's a bizarre show for a number of reasons. Here's reason number one I think it's a bizarre show. I often ask the question, what makes a character? What makes a character? It's not just a name. You know, it's not just a name. There's personality traits. There's character traits. There's certain things that make a character who they are. And what's interesting about a character like Punky Brewster is that Punky Brewster was created in the 1980s, and she was an 8-year-old girl. An 8-year-old girl. Well, I don't know about you. I'm not the same person at 45 that I was at 8. You probably aren't either. People grow, people change, people mature. And if you know someone you witness their change. You watch them change over time, over the years. You see it happen. But in a case like Punky Brewster, we lost Punky Brewster in 1988. And we did not see anything about Punky Brewster. So suddenly we're catching up with Punky Brewster years later. She's not the same person. She can't be the same person. So in that sense, it's almost like, well, this is Punky Brewster, but is it really? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, when I think Punky Brewster, I don't think single mother raising kids. Obviously, that's who she is today. But you could have named that character anything. It didn't have to be Punky Brewster. It is, but it didn't have to be. And there's no continuity of character because we haven't seen that character in 30 years. So we never saw this little girl develop into this person. We never witnessed that. So she's basically Punky Brewster because they're telling us she's Punky Brewster. It's not like we look at the character traits and go, aha, yes, that is Punky. That is Punky. Punky would do that. Because we don't know what Punky would do as an adult. We don't know Punky as an adult. We're just learning her as an adult. So that's one thing that's a little weird about it. And it's not just Punky Brewster. It's the same thing with any kind of show like that. Back in the 80s, we had a show called The New Leave It to Beaver. And Jerry Mathers was back as the Beaver, and he was a divorced father. But again, it was the same thing. We didn't see that in between time. But at least with The New Leave It to Beaver, you still had Barbara Billingsley as his mother. You still had Tony Dow as his brother Wally. You still had Lumpy and Eddie Haskell. And all these supporting characters from Leave It to Beaver were still there. So they still kind of had their character relationships intact. With Punky Brewster, we don't even get that. The only thing we get is her best friend Cherry. Cherry comes back. But again, it's the same thing with Cherry. We lost track of Cherry all those years, so we didn't see her grow into the woman she would become. At least we'll Leave It to Beaver. June Cleaver was the through line because she was an adult when we knew her in the 50s. She was an adult when we knew her in the 80s. She didn't change that much. She wouldn't change that much because she was already a full-grown adult when we met her. But with Punky, we're getting these two characters, Punky and Cherry. They were both children when we last saw them. So they're not the same characters. They can't be. And unlike The New Leave It to Beaver, Punky Brewster does not give us an adult character as a through line because George Gaines, who played Henry Warnemont on the original show, is gone. He passed away. So he can't make an appearance, so you have that level of continuity. But anyway, when I watched the trailer for the new Punky Brewster, my first reaction was, well, I bet that's going to be sort of like a Full House type show. It's going to be this kind of, super happy family sitcom with the kids and the mom and I don't really like those kind of sitcoms. Like, I related to Punky Brewster as a kid because it was a kid my age getting into the same kind of mischievous trouble that I would have gotten into because I was also an 8-year-old kid. 8-year-old kids get into shenanigans, right? So, there was that level there where you're like, oh, I get this. She's a kid. She's gotten in trouble. She's going to try to, hide it from her father. She doesn't want Henry to know she, failed her math test. It's relatable stuff to a kid. But a family sitcom like Full House, never my thing. I didn't care for Full House. I never liked Full House. And this looked very Full Housey. So I watched the trailer and I'm like, this isn't really my thing, but I'm going to watch it anyway. I'm going to watch it because of the pure nostalgia and the fact that I was a big fan of the original show back in the day. By the way, the original show has not aged well. I've watched the original show on Peacock too. And it's funny because I thought it was hilarious as a kid, and I don't find it even remotely funny anymore. It's really, but then again, I'm no longer the target audience. And guess what? I showed it to my girls. They love it. So there you go. But the new show, I watched it, and it really, early on, it wasn't for me. You've got Freddie Prinze Jr., who plays her ex-husband, who keeps popping in to check on her and the kids. They're still very friendly, even though they're not a couple anymore. She's got 3 kids at the beginning of the series. One of them is her actual biological daughter. The other 2 were adopted, just as she was adopted. And in the pilot episode, she meets a young girl who is an orphan at Fenster Hall, which, if you remember, Fenster Hall is where Punky ended up before Henry adopted her in the original series. So we go back to Fenster Hall, and she ends up adopting another little girl who reminds her of herself when she was a kid. So now she's got 4 kids, 3 of them adopted. And there's a lot of love in the family, and Freddie Prinze Jr. pops in and out, and then we do get cameos from the other kids. Like she had a best friend named Margot. Cherry and Margot were her 2 best friends. Margot makes an appearance, so you do get that. I be honest with you, I didn't really care for the show in the first couple episodes. Like I said, it's not my kind of show, but it started to grow on me. There's 10 episodes, and I think maybe it was the 3rd or 4th episode. They do an episode where Punky decides to go on her first date after her divorce, and she ends up on a date with Seth Green, and they go to an escape room. And I gotta tell you, Seth Green is so funny in that episode that's kind of the episode where the show really started to win me over. It never becomes a great show, but that episode, I started saying, you know something? There's something here. Seth Green is really funny here. And that episode, if you only watch one episode of the new Punky Brewster, watch the one with Seth Green. I think it was like episode 3 or 4. That one is really worth watching. And then after that, the show kind of finds its groove. It's never hilarious. It's never one of those laugh out loud comedies, but it's family friendly and it's cute, and there's worse ways to spend a half hour. It's fun seeing this guy, and eventually you do kind of just. There's flashbacks too to the original show. Like Punky built a treehouse in the original series, and we see Punky's treehouse again, and they reminisce about when they built the treehouse. So eventually, you do start to get a feel of, oh yeah, this is the same Punky. But at first, it's a little jarring because it could just be any single mom played by Soleil Moon Frye, and we're just being told it's Punky. But and other than shouting out catchphrases from when Punky was a kid, like Punky Power, like, I don't know, you still gonna be saying that as an adult? But of course she has to, because they gotta remind us it's Punky Brewster we're watching. So yeah, I would give the new Punky Brewster a mild recommendation. It is cute. It is kind of charming, but it is not great. It is not hilarious, really hard-hitting comedy. You're not going to get that from it, but it's family-friendly, and it might be something you can watch with your kids. So I'm curious, are you a fan of the original Punky Brewster? Did you watch the new Punky Brewster? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. I'm really curious. Do me a favor, if you like this video, just give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I don't ask people at the end of my videos often enough to, click that subscribe button, but I really should. Click that subscribe. If you like what you see, click that subscribe button. So there you go. For viewer Sean, there are my thoughts on the new Punky Brewster, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, everybody, keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.